Hello, and welcome to Canning with Todd. This is Todd. For today's video, I am going to be making some homemade pineapple jam. So for this, you're going to need 4 cans of crushed pineapple. I have some Dole here. This is just my preferred brand. If you want to use store brand, go right ahead. Then I have 1 can here of pineapple juice. This is a 46-ounce can. I am only going to be using 1,000 milliliters of this. So that's going to be about 32 ounces. That's all I'm going to be using out of this. The rest of it, I will end up probably drinking or doing something with it. And yes, this is an older can. It has a use-by date of March of this year. Perfectly fine. It's a use-by date. That's just what the manufacturer believes that the best quality is. So just because it has that does not mean it's bad. So I'm going to go ahead and just use that. Then right here I have 4 boxes of fruit pectin. You can use whatever brand of fruit pectin you prefer. I'm just using Sure-Jell only because I got like 40 boxes of them. So to get started, you're going to need to add everything but your sugar. And for the sugar, that's going to be 2.4 kilograms, or right around 13 cups, maybe around 14. But I just have it here in my stand mixer bowl because I like it because it has a handle on it. Just makes it easier. So to get started, you're going to, like I said, want to add everything into a saucepan. I have a large 12-quart one here right now on my stove. I have my large 32-quart pot with my jars in it, and the water's coming up to a boil. I just have 24 jars in there, even though I think I'm only going to need about 18, anywhere from 18 to 20 jars. I just threw 2 cases in there just because. So once this comes up to a boil, I will go ahead and remove it from the stove and I can get started on my jam. Alright, so my pot with my jars in it came up to a simmer, so I went ahead and took those off and set that whole pot behind me. That was heavy. So, my stove was clean before I started, but whenever I use my big pots like that, any residue that is left on my stove, it just pops. So it just kind of gets baked on there. I already got my pineapple in there, and I just set this on here like a minute ago, and it's already wanting to start to simmer. So something I'm curious about is this right here. I am just curious to see how the lining held up since it's about a year. Actually, thoroughly surprised. Actually looks fine, at least on the lid or the top. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pour this out. I'm going to try and bend the can just a little to kind of give it a little pour spout. Alright, and there's 500 mils. What I'm going to do is rinse these cans here out with a little bit of this juice. Get as much of that pineapple as I can. There's that can rinsed. You know, it's kind of funny how these cans seem to have a different style of lining compared to, say, tomatoes, where those have a traditional like plastic-based lining. These seem to have like a galvanized interior, which is weird. I don't know if it's going to pick it up on camera or not. If you can see, it kind of looks galvanized on the inside. But, alright, there's that. And here is that other 500 milliliters of that. And I probably should have shook this up. I didn't even think about that. I'm going to dump that one back in. Going to just grab something to stir this. I honestly don't know why I didn't think of that. Better late than never, I guess. Alright. There's that. I'm going to stir this right quick. And this pot is definitely overkill. I probably could have got away with using my 8-quart pot. I'm going to go ahead and add in my pectin and stir that in. I probably should have sprinkled that on. It is going to clump up, but I should be able to get that incorporated, as it has to come up to a full rolling boil anyway, so there's plenty of time to stir it in. I'm going to actually switch this out for this here. It's just a stirring paddle, and so I'm not reaching, my hand's not reaching inside the pot. And it's a little easier to scrape the bottom of the pan. But if you don't want to use the pineapple juice, you don't have to. You can use regular water. And you're not going to have to necessarily stir this the entire time, but once it starts to simmer, you will definitely want to start to stir it. But you're going to want to bring this up to a full rolling boil, and that is a boil that is not disturbed when you stir it, so it will pretty much continue to boil as you are stirring it. That is when you will want to go ahead and add in your sugar. Then you are going to want to bring that up to a full rolling boil once again, and then you are going to want to set a 1-minute timer, which I have to get my timer down. I have that in my cupboard above my refrigerator, so I will go ahead and just let this come up to that full rolling boil, and I will bring you back. Okay, I know you probably... Alright, so I know you probably can't see this, but it is pretty much at a full rolling boil right now. It does not stop boiling when I'm stirring it. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my sugar. And it will definitely help you out when you add your sugar to make sure it's sifted and there's no clumps or anything. But this is going to need to come back up to a full rolling boil again, and then set a timer for 1 minute. But I will bring you back again when this comes up to a full rolling boil. Alright, so this is pretty much at a full rolling boil right now. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my timer here. I already have 1 minute set on it. Still needs a little more time. It's not quite at a full rolling boil. Alright, so it is now at a full rolling boil. I am going to go ahead and start that timer for 1 minute. And you are not going to want to stop stirring this. And also something else that is very helpful, if you would add a couple tablespoons of butter to this, it will drastically reduce sticking. I mean, not sticking, foaming. Also, something else that would help is having a very large pot, kind of like I have. But this is actually more cumbersome than it is helpful in my case, because this isn't even halfway full. So alright, so this timer is done in a couple of seconds, so I'm going to just stop stirring that. I got to get something to put the pot on. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just remove it and set it off to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my big stock pot back over. That has all of my jars in it. And I'm going to go ahead and start removing some of those jars to use. Alright, so I am back. I got all of my jars out. My pot on the stove for my water bath is getting ready to come up to a boil. So I'm going to put the lid onto that. I have one of my canning racks from my pressure canner in the bottom of my pot here, and it actually fits perfectly. So I'm going to grab my canning funnel and I'm going to start towards the back here. And my pot with my pineapple jam is off to the side. It just seems like nothing is wanting to cooperate today. And it is already starting to thicken up a little bit. So I want to get this in jars as soon as I can. Now I got the pot too far over. So I'm just going to add 1 ladle to each jar, and I'm going to try and fill it up to about 1/2 inch of headspace. And I just overfilled that one. Actually, that's actually kind of perfect. Let's top the rest of these up then. And after I fill this one up, I'm going to go ahead and get these 5 here sealed up. And I'm going to just grab a damp rag with some water on it. Nothing special, don't really need any vinegar for this. Now the jars are going to be very hot. They just came out of a water bath that was boiling. So just remember that. You just want to make sure there's no pineapple or anything really on the rim. I'm going to go ahead and grab my flats, drop those on, and since these are the newer ball canning flats, these do not need to be warmed up or anything. And to tighten these, you're just wanting to tighten them until you feel resistance. That's good enough. Some people just say finger tight. I typically use that term too. That was not a jar sealing. That was one of the buttons that was pressed down that popped up. I'm going to go ahead and just pause this, and I will bring you back when I get all of these filled. Alright, so I'm back. I got all of my jars filled, and it looks like I ended up with 19 jars. This last one here doesn't really have any pineapple in it, so I'm not going to can that. I will just throw that in my fridge. I would have to make that a second row, and I do not want to deal with a second row. So I'm not going to bother with that. I went ahead and turned my canner down as I got sick of getting hit in the face with steam. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop my cans in. That I got sealed and everything. And there is some pineapple and everything on top of that. That's fine. It'll just end up in the water bath. And these jars are very hot, so you will definitely want to be careful. If you can avoid touching the jars, that would definitely be advisable. I am kind of used to handling hot stuff, so it doesn't really bother me too much. But this stuff here is good on quite a bit of stuff. It's good on ice cream. It's good on toast. Really, anything you can put it on. Oatmeal. Really anything. Be really good to put on, say, baked chicken or something. Kind of like another one of my videos I put out not too long ago. I think I put it out the day before I'm filming this one, so. Alright, so I have pretty much one ring, I think. I'm going to get my jars pushed to the edge. And just like when you're pressure canning, you are going to want something on the bottom. So I am going to just set a timer for 10 minutes, and when that timer's done, then these should be done. Again, that gives it about 5 minutes to come up to a boil. Since it is practically there, it's simmering right now, so it should come up to a boil fairly fast. And that's then another 5 minutes to process it. So I will just wrap this video up right here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button. If you enjoy the content I'm putting out, make sure to smash that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for coming along with me on this journey of mine.